Well, it's a buyer's market, and local realtor Talia Freedman has details about how to protect yourself and your investment before you buy the new home. Hi, Talia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Great to have you. You know,
Thank you.
I was telling you before the show, one of the things that's so nice is that it's good to have some hope in this economy, right? And I think right now the market's giving us a little bit of hope. New Mexico was one of the last states, you know, to be hit hard by the economic crisis. So where does the housing market stand right now? Like, where does it stand as we head into this brand new year? I mean, we're still only in January.
Absolutely. Well, things have actually been selling a little bit more briskly in this market, and that's because people have really come down on their prices. So it's a wonderful time to be a buyer, but if you're a seller in this market, you're going to have to be very aggressive on price and presentation to get your house sold.
Well, it's good to hear that things are getting a little bit better as far as price goes. I mean, but I think a lot of people wonder if, as they're getting into the sale or the buy, why would they want to work with a realtor? You know, what's the reason when they can maybe find a property online, you know, they can go look things up, they can maybe go buy something in foreclosure. I mean, why would they go to a realtor?
Well, one of the biggest reasons is for a buyer, working with a realtor is free. So the seller pays the commission. And what's nice is you have someone who's representing you and helping you from start to finish through the process. So they're going to help you look for houses, they're going to get you into the houses so you're not having to make individual appointments with a million different realtors. And most importantly, they're going to help you negotiate and figure out what the right price for a house is.
Exactly, because you know, and you have different kinds of accessibility to different tools to really help. And I think a lot of people out there get a little overwhelmed. So, I mean, what would be the first step if they're thinking, all right, I want to buy a house, I want to contact a realtor, what do I do first?
Well, the first thing I always recommend is to figure out who you want to work with is talk to your friends and family and see who they've worked with. And if they've had good experiences with a lender or a realtor, then that might be the person you want to start with.
That makes sense. And I want to go back to exactly what you just said before, which is no upfront costs as a buyer in working with a realtor. So there's nothing that you have to lay out financially. So right there, it's a win-win just from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And so a prospective home buyer needs to obviously get approved.
Right.
So that's a little bit tricky right now. That's the one part where the economy is affecting all of us.
Absolutely.
So how do they get approved? What's your advice?
Well, the first thing is to talk to a lender. They're going to be able to really tell you. They'll look up your credit score. They'll talk to you about your income and your assets. Those are all the key factors that go into getting approved.
So, and you want to make sure, I would imagine if you're having any debt situations, you want to probably try to clear that up before you get into a buying situation.
Absolutely. Often a lender can help you work through that, but sometimes you might need to talk to a credit counselor.
That makes sense. And I guess another thing is, as we look at our bank accounts, we wonder, is the approval amount the same as what we can afford to spend on the house? Because a lot of times we're spending what we don't have. I mean, that's the reason we're all in this mess in the first place, isn't it?
Yes, that's a good question. When you talk to your lender, be sure that you talk to them about what you're comfortable spending per month. So you don't want to, even if you get approved for more than you feel comfortable with, you don't want to spend that money because then you're going to be stuck with a mortgage that's too expensive.
Well, are banks even lending these days?
They are lending. If you have that right combination of credit, assets, and income, then certainly you can get a mortgage, but sometimes it takes a little more work than it used to.
If you switch it around, it's easy to remember CIA, credits, income, assets.
Absolutely.
If you have the CIA on your side. Now, I've heard of home buyers who are actually approved, right, and because they're quoted a monthly mortgage, and then what they do is they sit down, and then they sign the papers, and they get to that point, and then the monthly payment gets jumped several $100s, and that's what happens to a lot of people. So, I mean, at that point, can the home buyer buy out when things have changed from the initial agreement?
Well, if you've signed all of the papers, I don't know if you really could get out of it once you've signed all the documents. So the key is to be really clear when you're talking to your lender what your payment's going to be. And there's another kind of initials thing with that. It's called PITI, and it stands for Principal, Interest, Taxes, and Insurance. And you want to make sure when you talk to your lender, they're including all of those in the monthly amount they're telling you. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that your interest rate is fixed, and so that your interest rate can't jump in the future all of a sudden.
So right from the beginning, before you get into any signatures, you want to make sure you have a fixed interest rate.
Absolutely.
And that's an important thing. I mean, that's something I would, if I was making a note of a list right now, I'd say that's important. And there's obviously a lot of things that home buyers need to keep in mind when they're house hunting. So what are some of the other things that people can start thinking about?
What I would suggest for people thing to do is to make a list of the top 5 things they really want in a home.
Okay.
And a couple of those are going to include price, location, how many bedrooms and bathrooms they want, things like that.
Okay.
Sometimes you're going to have to compromise on some of those.
Right.
Often you can't get the updated home for the low price you wanted for in the neighborhood you want.
True.
So you have to be able to be prepared to make some compromise. The one thing you can't change is where the house is located. So if you're really firm on a location, then you're going to have to compromise on a few other things.
Good point. When I worked in real estate in Florida, one of the things I also said is give me the 5 non-negotiable don't wants too.
Absolutely.
Because that's important too. Now, what if somebody isn't ready to buy a house, or they're thinking maybe in the next year or two, yeah, this might be an option. I mean, what steps should they take to plan for the future?
A few things they can do is they can talk to a lender now to get some counseling on what they should be doing, or a credit counselor. But if they don't feel like they need that much guidance, they certainly should get their annual free credit report. Okay. So, of course, we've all heard their commercials, freecreditreport.com. Yes. There's another one called annualcreditreport.com. I actually just did that one the other day.
Really?
And had a few things that are not mine.
Oh, good. And how can viewers contact you personally?
They can find me on my website, which is abq-realty.com.
Okay.
They can, of course, always call me, and my phone number's on the website.
Okay,
and
great.
they can also find me on Facebook.
Fantastic. Well, Talia, thank you so much. Such important and helpful information, and I think a lot of people will be taking your advice.
Thanks
you for being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Really interesting.
Thank you.
Still ahead on New Mexico Style, how to be a superstar. Superstar. We all want to be superstars.